Good morning, gentlemen. Jeff, it's my first time being interviewed by you on talkSPORT. What a moment for me, and what an even better moment for you.
Thanks, Piers. Superbly put. So, Piers, would you agree with Harry, our caller there, who says that Marcus Rashford needs to be allowed to let his hair down from time to time?
Well, of course, but, letting your hair down is one thing, but going on, 12-hour benders and drinking tequila like it's going out of fashion when you're not scoring goals, when you've already had disciplinary issues, it seems to me extremely ill-advised. Now, I would preface it by saying I think that Marcus Rashford has been a fantastic role model until this part of his career. All the stuff he did about child poverty was amazing, and he deserves great credit for that. So he's a young man with many great qualities. He's also a fantastic football player. Last season, he was electrifying, and people were talking about him being one of the best players in the country, if not the world. But this season, he looks a completely different player. His life off the pitch appears to be going off the rails. And if I was a United fan, where you haven't won the league in a decade now, to see one of your top players behaving like this in what appears to be just a self-destruct mode would be extremely concerning. So no, I don't share Harry's view, and I think Harry needs to think, what does he want from his players and his club?
Piers, if it was an Arsenal player, what action would you think should be taken in terms of discipline, arm round him, or what do you think?
Well, I think that, I think we don't really have players that do this anymore. I mean, we used to have a lot. We used to be the world leaders in players who like to party and then, win trophies. You think back to the what we would call the glory days of the early 90s.
Yeah.
That was the way football was. The difference now is football's changed dramatically. I mean, you know that, Ali. It's a completely different game now. Mm-hmm. These guys are top athletes. They treat their bodies like temples. The game is played at a ferocious speed. There are so many games. You just don't have that time that the older players used to do when there were much fewer games and so on to behave like this. And if I was an Arsenal player, I think that you give them one or two chances, but if they keep doing it, I think most Arsenal fans would go, more trouble than they're worth, get rid of them. And I'm seeing a lot of United fans saying that today. Is like, what, Marcus again? Now, if he was scoring goals for fun, then fine. But he's not. He's barely scoring a goal either. So you've got a combination of a top player who is wasting his talent, and I think that in the modern game, there's not much leeway to do that.
I mean, look, if he was to leave United, if they did get rid of him, you'd have him at Arsenal, wouldn't you?
No, we don't need him, because we've actually got two brilliant wingers in Saka and Martinelli. What Arsenal need, Jeff, and I'm glad we've come to the main event of the morning, what Arsenal need is a striker. And I'm absolutely, I'm just staggered, actually, that Arteta, who, let's remind everybody, he's now been manager for over 4 years at Arsenal. He's not won the league. He's not won the Champions League. And this is our really big chance this season to move on from choking the league last year to really cement things and win one of these big trophies. We haven't won the league in 20 years. I can remember it because we won the league in 2004. That was the same month that I got fired from the Daily Mirror. That's how long ago that is. And I just think that he's got a blind spot about this. He clearly thinks that he can win the league with Gabriel Jesus, who is a terrific football player. Don't get me wrong. His heat map is amazing. What he's not is a natural goal scorer. And by his own admission, he's not a natural goal scorer. He just doesn't score that many goals. You have Eddie Nketiah, who is not, in my view, at the stage yet where he's a top striker. And why you would go and spend £67 million on someone like Kai Havertz, when you could go and spend 80 million to 100 million on getting a top striker, it is completely beyond me. And today we wake up and we read that Arteta says, well, we looked at it, we have one of the thinnest squads in the league, he said, but we've decided not to buy anybody in the January transfer window. How does that make sense? You admit you've got one of the thinnest squads, everybody knows we need a striker, and everyone knows we've got a chance again to win the league this season, and we're not doing anything in the January transfer window. I think it's madness.
Piers, if you don't mind me saying so, it sounds to me rather like you wouldn't be too upset if your manager headed to Barcelona.
Well, you know what made me laugh when I saw that? That was the kind of thing that we used to read about Wenger when he was struggling. Suddenly you'd read Barca swoop for Wenger, and I always used to think it was Wenger putting out the rumours because it was like, well, I could go somewhere else. And of course, when Wenger finally became available, nobody wanted him, and that was the tragedy of Arsene Wenger staying way too long. No, we're not in a Wenger situation with Arteta. The fans love Arteta. He's got a great squad of players together. He's got a fantastic team spirit with the players and the crowd. I've never known the Emirates to be so at one with the players. But let's be clear. We have not won the Premier League in 20 years, and I've been watching Arsenal avidly for a long time. When have we ever won the league without a top striker? I mean, we had Ian Wright, we had Bergkamp and Henry, with Nicholas Anelka, Robin van Persie. We had really world-class strikers, and now we don't. And for Arsenal not to have one year in, year out seems to me a very, very odd refusal to accept the bleeding obvious.
Yeah, but you used the word struggling there a moment or two ago, Piers. You're not struggling. You're fourth in the table. You're level with Manchester City on points. You're 5 points behind Liverpool. You're still going well in the Champions League. In what way are you struggling?
Well, I would put it like this to you, is that we should have won the league last year. So expectation levels at Arsenal are through the roof, and quite rightly. But they should always have been. One of my problems with the Wenger era in the last 10 years was that our expectation levels collectively were so low. We thought that coming fourth was like winning a trophy. It was like fantastic. We qualified for a tournament we can't win. And it just went on for years and years and years. So, yeah, I think last year we should have won the Premier League. This season, we've had a terrific chance to do it again. But the last 6 weeks or so, we've fallen off a cliff again. And I just don't understand why, in that circumstance, you don't go in the market. People say we haven't got the money, financial fair play league, all that. Well, fine. I can sell you 3 or 4 players tomorrow and get a war chest to buy a striker. It's not difficult. Put Havertz on the transfer list for one, right? What would you get for him? Say you get 60 million for Havertz, right? People like Smith Rowe and Nketiah, these guys, are they really, really going to be the players that win you the league? Nothing against them. They're terrific players. They've come through our system. Great. But if you want to win the league, you've got to be ruthless. And it worries me that Arteta almost seems to be trying to convince himself that he doesn't need a top striker when everyone knows he does.
Okay, transfer window closing very shortly. Don't think you're going to get one, Piers. Thanks for joining us.
All the best.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
TalkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the TalkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. TalkSPORT.